that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh, pouring out his spirit. See, during the old covenant, believers were never permanently indwelt with the Holy Spirit. I need you to get that. Occasionally, God would allow the Spirit to dwell on certain people for periods of time, but the experience was fleeting. Hence, we see David crying out to God, saying in Psalm 51, create in me a clean heart, renew in me a right spirit. Don't take your Holy Spirit from me. Here, Joel promises that that day would come, and before Jesus' ascension, he promised that his helper, the Holy Spirit, would soon be sent to aid the apostles in the early church. I will pour out. I, God. He is defining how anyone gets the Spirit. It is based on divine initiative of God. We may think that it's insignificant, but some folk give a testimony about how they got the Spirit, and God's name doesn't make it to the conversation. See, this is not some bootleg promise, but something that is for certain. Pour, it means to spill over, which would get a lot. It's like the idea of getting folk wet. He uses the imagery of a cup overflowing. That's what this Hebrew word, it's like a cup overflowing. And then it's like filling up this thing. And then the water spilling off mine, all over the podium, all over my Bible, the iPad, all over the floor. So the imagery is the overflowing abundance of God's Spirit that He alone gives out. But the idea is him pouring out his Spirit is like it coming out of the cup and getting on the carpet. So it would be getting on some uncommon things. So what he's saying is he's pouring out his Spirit on some uncommon people. He's pouring out his Spirit on some folk who should maybe never have gotten it, but he chose by his grace to do it. This Holy Spirit is not some trivial organ player, but he is the careful helper. He is the Spirit of God. The Athanasian Creed says he's equal with God, co-equal with God and with the Son. He has all power, and his power is not just to come to give us some emotive mess, but he's come to give us comfort. He's come to meet us in our brokenness. He's come to invade the darkness of our hearts. He's come to take resident in these broken down row homes called our lives. He's come to do something. He's come to transform. He's come to remind you, even though the devil tries to remind you that you're dirty, filthy, and disgusting, he comes to tell you that God looks at you through the lens of the cross. He comes to tell you, I don't care if they said you ugly, you're gorgeous. If you got the ghost, if I'm in you, he comes to tell you and remind you, if your mother has abandoned you, it's all right, I will never. He comes to assure, he comes to teach, so you don't fall for the okie doke. He comes to bring a power beyond power, not some bootleg power on some positive thinking, but he comes to bring a supernatural power that you can't even explain. He comes to do some stuff. He comes to show up and show off. He comes to provide protection, and he comes to take you all the way to glory. Joel, the people here, they are in a mess. They have sinned against God. They have a posture against him, and the locusts have wiped out the socioeconomics of the whole nation. They are a mess. And then they hear a man say, don't worry, the helicopter's on the way, and his name is the Holy Spirit. He's got rations not just to get you through this flood, but to take you all the way to glory.